You're listening to the Illuminate Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Kors, and I'm passionate about encouraging and inspiring others to shine their light for Jesus. Let's explore together the stories of how others are following their purpose and shining their light. Let's get started. You're illuminating me. Hey friends, welcome to the Illuminate Podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and today I'm here with Mikey Powell, who's a singer, songwriter, and worship leader based in Southampton, which is down on the south coast here in the UK. Mikey and I go way back as we were part of the same church for many years, and I've played in worship bands together with Mikey for many, many times. I've been following Mikey's music journey since he started releasing music about 10 years ago. So, hey Mikey, welcome to the podcast. It's awesome to have you on here.
Thanks, Joel. It's genuinely wonderful to be here. This is, I don't know if you know, but actually guesting on a podcast is like a real dream for me. No one's ever asked me before, so I'm just super excited to be here.
Yeah, great. That's good. That's great to hear. So I'm really excited to hear some of what it means for you to be shining your light for God through, the songs and the worship that you do. So let's kind of wind it back, start right at the beginning if we can. It's obvious to me that music and worship is a real passion for you, just because I know you so well.
Yeah.
Can you describe what your earliest memories of music were? How did that start for you?
It's a good question. I think it would have been in the church that I grew up in down in Somerset. And I think, I remember, it was my granny and someone else, a lady called Sue, who used to play pianos, two pianos. Why were there two pianos? Incredible. It wasn't quite the same as the standard worship band. But I remember as a little kid, I don't know how old I would have been, maybe younger than 5, and I had this tiny little red and yellow tambourine that I would play in.
Wow.
Probably horribly out of time. As a worship leader now, whenever someone brings a tambourine into worship, I'm always on high alert.
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. But I remember as a kid doing that, and that graduated to eventually I started to play the recorder at the back of the church, started to play along by ear, and then that became a clarinet, and then joined the worship team, and it sort of snowballed from there. But yeah, I was thinking about, I think that probably is my first musical memory. I don't have a lot of memories of listening to loads of music. I think I played music before I listened to it, really.
Yeah.
And so yeah, well, I learned the recorder when I was 6. That was my first.
Wow.
Yeah. First foray into musical achievement, and then started clarinet when I was maybe 8.
So you're really going down the woodwind route, really.
Well, yeah, I think initially it was just something to do. It wasn't like a passion to start with. My mum played guitar and sung for like Sunday school. She always asked me if she was happy to teach me a bit of guitar, and I was never that bothered to start with. I think it was when I went to Soul Survivor for the first time, or when I saw Delirious for the first time. I think I was like 13. And I guess that for me was my first experience of live music in that kind of way, full band, and that's what got me hooked, got me wanting to learn guitar. So I picked up my mum's nylon string acoustic, and there was a teach yourself guitar book in the bookshelf that mum had never got round to using, and I just taught myself. I think I was 14. Picked it up, and the fact that I'd learned like the clarinet and the recorder, and I could read music and do that stuff, that was helpful as a starting point. But then that's I think where it really became a passion. Before then, it was something that I enjoyed. I played, but didn't really listen to much. But then it was things that I listened to a load of Delirious, tried to learn all of Stooges riffs with varying levels of success, and so sort of snowballed from there, I reckon.
Oh, that's really cool. And so at what point did that then develop? Because obviously I know that you've been a worship leader for many years, having, served on the same worship bands on many occasions. And what point did you kind of get to the point where you stepped in sort of worship band in church, and then moving up to sort of leading in that role?
It was one of those things. I think it was youth leaders who were like, a young person plays guitar, do you want to try leading worship for a youth thing? And I would have been 15, I think, the first time I led worship at a youth event. I led on my terrible Les Paul copy. I played 3 songs, and they each had a different capo position, and my guitar got gradually more and more out of tune, and I chose one song that nobody knew. It was a terrible time of worship. But yeah, I think from there it quickly progressed. Like when I was 16, so about a year later, I was in charge of the worship team. By that point, I was in a little village church. I'm really grateful for the opportunities I was given, because that wouldn't happen in somewhere bigger.
Sure.
I learned quickly because I was doing it week in, week out, and being trusted with the responsibility that in other places I wouldn't have got. And so I'm really very grateful for the guys who saw something in me, before it was any good. I guess again, like Soul Survivor was a big deal for me. Going on to those things, seeing people like Matt Redman and Tim Hughes lead worship was a real inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember always coming back from those, bringing songs and bringing little ad-lib bits that they'd done. It was a real formative time for me, 15, 16.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think, those days, like you said, Matt Redman, Tim Hughes, people like that, leading worship, a lot of us who were kind of growing up in that era and stepping into like leading worship, can draw on that. And obviously they were releasing a lot of new songs at the time, weren't they?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You've now been releasing music for like 10 years-ish. And at some point then along your journey there, you developed a passion for like songwriting yourself. How did that interest come about? Or how did that evolve?
Yeah, I guess again it was through church back at home and the encouragement I received there. It was, you're doing this, you're leading worship, why not try some songwriting? And again, in the similar way to when I first started leading worship, it can't have been any good. But this is the key. I tell people this if ever they're asking me like creativity tips.
Yeah.
The key to writing good songs is to write a whole bunch of rubbish songs. Just write stuff. And so, I was encouraged to do that. So it was all, I think, to start with, my musical journey was all within the church. It wasn't until later on that I sort of stepped outside of that arena a little bit as well. But that was my inspiration, was writing songs for church. I wrote a couple that we did used to do. That was the one that we used to do in youth. And there's one particular one that we would do as part of our main Sunday services. And that was, I think, incredible to be trusted with that and to see people respond to the song that you have written, sing along with it. It was, amazing. I am still not over that as a feeling. It's incredible to have people to sing something that you've written back to you. It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's it's a really amazing thing. As someone like writes songs as well, having other people singing the song that effectively has come from your own heart is quite an incredible thing, isn't it?
It's like nothing else. It's very humbling and just wonderful. It's because music is meant to be shared, I believe, and we often we write these things in our little rooms, in our bedrooms or in our offices, and it can feel like, oh, how's this going to work? Is this gonna land? And sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, when people grab hold of something. We introduced a new song of mine at our away day at church on Saturday, and it was really special. I find it difficult to describe find the words to describe the feeling, but it is something very spiritual, something really humbling about that feeling. Yeah,
I think that's really cool. And so throughout your songwriting journey, what has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome during that? Has there been any hurdles or anything that you've had to face in the midst of that?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge, and it's not just limited to my songwriting journey, was I lost my voice for pretty much a whole year.
Wow.
So I went to uni to study music. After I finished my undergrad, I wanted to do a master's in composition and songwriting, which was amazing. That was a really... again, another formative time, really time of great creativity for me. I had to come to my tutor at the end of every week with a new song written, which was a real challenge, but amazing. But towards the end of that process, the whole idea was basically the big thing that you hand in at the end was effectively an album, like 45 minutes or so of music. And I'd finished the writing of it, but towards the end of that process, I got a horrible cough. The cough lasted like 2 months. And it just killed my vocal cords, basically. And I couldn't sing. I couldn't finish the masters, record it. Which meant the sort of life got put on hold because I couldn't finish this masters. I was studied in Southampton, where I live now. Had to move back home because there was nothing to do. I couldn't move on and didn't have the next step. And so I felt in this limbo. But also, it's when you lead worship and you write songs, it's very easy for that to become, your identity. Yeah, certainly it's a part of who you are. But then when that's taken away, it's really difficult Like, you're like, who am I? And I was very much like, I don't want this to be all of my identity. I don't want to not know who I am if I can't do this. But at the same time, it's really tough. That, I think, was the hardest year of my life.
Wow.
In that process.
Yeah. Did you feel like through that experience, did you learn anything about yourself, or was God teaching you anything through that experience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I believe that God is trying to teach us through everything that happens. We're open to learning. And I think in that there was a lot of stuff about identity and humility that I had to learn and still am learning. It's not stuff that I've got sorted. But yeah, that was a real challenge to me, that I was like, okay, who am I if I can't do this? If I can't... It's a real balance, because I think it's important. God makes us with these passions. And that's completely fine. It's completely fine for that to be part of my identity, that I'm a worship leader, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter. But that's not fundamentally who I am. Who I am is separate from that and doesn't rely on that, or shouldn't rely on that. So that was a real challenge. And it's like I said, it's not something that I feel like I've nailed. It's interesting, when you go through something like that, I found there's this almost pressure. I was like, well, this is all horrible, so I've got to at least learn some lesson from this. And feeling like, well, I'm not learning well enough. Like, God's teaching me stuff. What am I supposed to be doing? And I think there's in that maybe a sense of patience as well. A sense of, this too will pass, but how long that takes, I don't know. So I think that was the big thing for me, was like identity and patience, and learning that I had other things to offer, or learning how to platform others, to support others, because I'm still able to play guitar, I'm still able to sort of put together a band and help to lead worship, choose songs. So in that period, I was trying to help other singers to lead worship and support them, because I had to still provide worship on a Sunday morning. It's like, who can step up and help, and how can I help them do that? And that's, I think, maybe become a passion of mine since then more, because it's recognizing, helping others to do the things that I can do. I think maybe that's a reminder now to not just do everything myself just because I can. But to step out of the way sometimes, and to leave space for other people who sometimes maybe they're not as experienced yet. Maybe it wouldn't technically be as good, in inverted commas, as if I did it. But if I don't leave that space, they'll never learn. They'll never get to different levels. They will never see different perspectives. I'm really grateful. I had the worship team at New Community where we were together for a while.
Yes, indeed.
I'm very grateful for all the worship leaders there, and they're different from me, and that's so important. They offer different things, and I think it's so important to be able to step out of the way so that we let other people shine their light. That's one of the ways we can shine our own light, is by helping others to shine theirs, which I guess is part of what you're doing with this podcast and everything. Yeah,
absolutely. One thing that I thought was really interesting, that I feel like I've had a very similar journey to you, actually, in terms of very, very recently, I struggled with a really bad throat for about the last... I mean, it's only really getting back to normal now. But through a succession of like colds and flu, I had a really bad throat, like right through the summer. And which was really frustrating, because... So frustrating. You know, it was okay enough for like worship leading and stuff like that, but I found for recording, it just wasn't cutting it. And it really held me back from kind of producing and releasing particularly one song that I'd been working on. And in the same way, like you were saying, I felt like God actually, in the end, I was getting very frustrated about it. But in the end, I felt like God say to me, you know, this is time for you to take a step back and look at me as being your reason. You know, I'm the reason that you're living, not to produce songs. And it is an opportunity sometimes, I think, you know, when we have things that don't quite go right, and we're forced to take a step back, like you were, you know, stepping back a little bit for a period of time, where you kind of go, so why, God, why am I doing this again? And making sure that we've got our eyes on Him. So
making the main thing, because it's so easy,
absolutely,
to make good things like idols, I guess, as it were. Make good things the main thing.
Sure.
Worship, songwriting, all these things we do for good reasons. We do because, you know, we want to glorify God. We want to point people to Him. But it's but that doesn't mean that we can't get that out of kilter, make that the main thing. I think it's easy to almost worship sometimes, and it's not that what we're doing isn't important, but ultimately the main thing is that I'm a child of God. That's who my identity is. And I don't have to do any of the stuff that I do to achieve that. That is given freely as a gift. And I think actually when we create out of that as our identity, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So just wanted to roll back a little bit. You obviously released a lot of songs, as I mentioned earlier, since you started. I'm just curious to know which of your songs means the most to you and why.
Wow, that's a difficult question, Joel. It's like saying, which of these is your favourite child? Which of your sons is your favourite?
I know.
Not quite the same. Children and songs are different.
Yes.
I have that easy. I only have one child. But he does come ahead of the cat.
Of course.
I think it probably changes week to week, year to year.
What about this year?
This year, well, yeah, that's what I can only do at the moment.
Yeah.
So I released my latest EP this year, earlier on in the year, and there's a few songs on there that which ones of those would be? I think probably it would be between two. I'm going to try and cheat and say both.
That's okay.
So one of them is the final song of the album. It's called Long Haul, and it's all about how do we create a lifelong faith and journey with Jesus? How do we be patient? Because very often the way that God works is slower than we'd like it to be.
Yeah.
And actually saying yes to that, surrendering to the lyric is I surrender to the steadfast and slow work of God. And that's something that I keep coming back to. I've grown up in a Christian home, been a Christian myself for, I guess, 30 years almost now. How do I keep this going? I see the people who, like at church, who've been doing this for longer than I've been alive, been following Jesus. And I'm inspired by that. How do I not just see the flashy and the big stuff, how it is, where it is in the faithful plodding in the day-to-day following of Jesus that you last the journey. So that's a song that's special to me and a challenge to me that I really love. And the other one on the album that I feel a real connection to is Father, I'm Weary, which was written in the midst of the second lockdown. So the first lockdown during COVID, I know for a lot of people that was really tough. But for us as two introverts who had no kids and had just got a kitten and Disney Plus, we were loving it. That first lockdown was lovely. But that second one, after Christmas, at the start of 2021, it really felt like it started to drag. I felt really lethargic. I felt lacking in motivation. It felt really tough. And I just sat down at one point to try and sing my feelings out. And that effectively was this lament that came from that. Father, I'm weary. And still, when I'm feeling that sense of weariness, which I often do, or sense of worry or anxiety, sense of frustration, sense of feeling distant from God, I feel I'm able to come back to that song and just sort of rest in it and being able to express that is so powerful.
Yeah.
I think lament, it's not something we do very well necessarily in our congregational settings, and it's not always appropriate, but it's important. The Psalms are full of it. And I think actually what it does is it's a real statement of trust in God, that I'm feeling all of this stuff. I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling worried, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling frustrated, feeling angry, feeling distraught, feeling grief stricken, all of that stuff. But actually I'm choosing in that to bring that to you. I trust you with it. Where else would I go? And I think that's actually a real statement of faith. I think that's a real beautiful way to worship, is to be honest about that. So those are the two I would choose between.
I love that. And I think you're dead right. Lament is definitely not something that we, it's not a great starter, is it, for a Sunday morning?
No,
but it definitely has its place.
Absolutely. It's important. I think if we've been leading worship on a Sunday morning, it's important to know where people are at and being aware of that. And it's a difficult balance because not everyone is going to be in the same place. Some people come in ready to worship, excited, raring to go. Other people come in like they've just barely got in the door, like at the end of the tether. And lots of people come in the middle, sort of, I'm just here because it's Sunday and this is what I do. I've almost, sleepwalked my way here. I've not really thought about this. I'm neither up nor down. I'm just in the mundane of life. And being able to speak to all of those, but point people to Jesus. That's the real balance. For lament, I think it's important to be honest and authentic, but to not become self-indulgent. And ultimately, the pattern of lament you see in the Psalms is there's all this complaint that gets real, ferocious at times. But at the end, it's like, still, I will trust in your unfailing love. And that's, I think, it's important to have the balance of both and be aware of where people are at, to be able to, we can weep with those who weep. And laugh with those who laugh.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's really relatable. I think everyone in our lives which are busy and jam-packed full of stuff, we can all relate to feeling weary.
Yeah, absolutely.
At one point or another. So I feel like that's really relatable. That's cool. So I just wanted to kind of change tack a little bit. You know, you've obviously been traveling your journey for a while, shining your light through kind of getting your songs out there. What advice would you have to our friends listening if they're feeling unsure about how they're meant to shine their light for God?
Great question. I guess I'd have maybe some different bits of advice. One of them would be is to don't wait to be like, what am I supposed to be doing? You are where you are. You're in a position. You have friends and family around you. You're doing a job, whether you like that or not. All of those are opportunities to shine your light for God, and probably where God has placed you. Maybe not forever. That might not be what you want. But don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't think, in this next season, I'll be able to do that, and then I'll properly shine my light. Yeah. You have an opportunity wherever it is. Even if you don't yet have the platform that you want, there is still space and opportunity. And actually, I think, you know, the stuff that I do in terms of releasing music, leading worship, all the upfront visible stuff is important, and I'm passionate about all of that. But I do wonder whether, when I look back at my life, whether actually it'll be just important, the moments that no one saw, the moments where, you know, I'm looking after my 5-month-old son, and I'm raising him and pointing him to Jesus in those ways, and the moments of how I treated my friends and family, how I treated the people around me at work or at the supermarket. That's one of the things I'm finding at the moment. I want to be just as passionate about that. And so I guess in the first place, if you're not feeling sure how, there's so many ways. In the small, it doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be visible in the same way. It doesn't have to be the same thing that everyone else does. You can shine your light in really meaningful ways, maybe sometimes even more meaningful ways. I think the most important things that I do are not on stage. The most important things that I do are with my family in my house. And the other thing I would say is that if you're someone who does want to be creative, who wants to make something in some way, one of my mantras that I try to live by, but I certainly tell other people a lot, is that perfect is the enemy of done. Don't wait for everything to be absolutely right before you just put it out there. I mean, obviously, you know, don't just record a voice note and put it on Spotify, as it were. But so often as creatives, we get stuck in our little, it's not, I can just tweak this, I can do this little bit here, this bit here. Yeah, perfect is the enemy of done. If you wait for perfection, you'll never get it done. Just put stuff out there. Just get started. Like I said earlier, don't be afraid to write a whole bunch of rubbish songs. Don't wait to be good before you write it. Don't be afraid to paint some terrible paintings. Painting terrible paintings is the only way to paint good paintings. Absolutely. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's really cool. Something sprang to mind as you were like chatting a little bit then. Interestingly, only yesterday I was having a little chat with my home group actually. And we've been working through Colossians.
Nice.
And it came up about the whole kind of idea that sometimes we can have this like cultural divide between, you know, what is God's work and what is, you know, mundane. You know, well, I have to do this to earn money. And sometimes we look at, he's in full-time ministry, he's doing God's work.
Yeah.
But actually, in Colossians, we've got this verse, which I love, which says, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the God the Father through him. And it's this kind of idea that it doesn't, you know, whatever it is that God's given you to do, you are shining your light for him in wherever he's put you, in your workplace, in your school, in your university, you know, whatever that place looks like to you, in your community, in your family. And I think that's really key, because we can often have this separation in our minds as to what is God.
Yeah, 100%. It's easy to do. But I think it's so important, because ultimately, if we're only shining our light with the things we do outwardly, if my life only reflected God in the way that I released music and sung songs, but it didn't in what I'm doing day to day, that's going to disconnect, and it's not going to work. At some point, someone's going to see, but wait a minute, you're doing all this. It's important. It's got to be both and. And if you only have to choose one, it's got to be the day-to-day. I've been thinking about
absolutely.
this in terms of worship, and some of this was some of the themes I'm thinking about in the EP that I released. The subtitle is "In the Mountaintops, the Mess and the Mundane." If we limit our worship to 20 minutes of soft pop rock on a Sunday morning, then we've missed it. Like, there's so much more, and I want our worship to be every day, to be part of our whole lives. And so that's, I think, it's both. It's got to be both, and we want to shine our light, to not put ourselves down or to not hide ourselves. There's stuff that we all have to share, but we also have to do that in an everyday way, in the little things that we do every day.
So why don't you share what's next for you? Can you share what's coming up or anything that you're currently working on?
Well, it's a good question, and it's one that I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to.
That's okay.
So this year has been a busy one for me. I released the EP back in April, so sort of building up to that. But at the same time, I was also moving house, and my wife was pregnant. We were expecting our first child, and he arrived in May. And so it was all getting that stuff done before he arrives, so that after that I can have no plans.
Sure.
I still sort of have no plans, and I'm not really sure what comes next. I will continue to be writing. There's a group of us worship leaders at church who write together and meet together regularly to do that, and that's really exciting. And I would love to record more. I've got songs that I'm like, that's, maybe this is the next collection. So my last 2 EPs have been the Snowball Chronicles Volumes 1 and 2. So there's definitely got songs for a Volume 3, but as and when that happens, I don't know. Like, it's time and money where now I have an extra mouth to feed, and I don't know what that looks like anymore. Maybe I'll never release a song in the same way. I hope that I will.
Yes.
There's a song we've been singing at church regularly of mine that I would love to get out there and record properly. But the truth is, I don't know. I don't know what's next. Hopefully, recording that new song at some point will be good.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what I will continue to do is I will continue to write. I will continue to lead worship and to be writing for that context, and to write with other people and support others in their writing as well, without fully knowing what the plan is. And that's okay.
Perfect.
I feel very at peace with that.
Yeah.
Which I'm pleased with. I think as I sort of alluded to earlier, my main job at the moment, other than my actual work, is looking after my son and raising him and supporting my wife, and that is good and holy and creative work, and that is shining my light in its own way.
Yeah. Finally, you've got loads of great songs out there already.
Wow.
Thanks. Awesome songs. Where can people go to find out more about you or hear the songs that you've currently got out? Well,
great questions. Basically, everywhere where you'd expect to find music. Head to Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal. I've no idea. I've never used those, but I'm told that my music is there. YouTube, Amazon Music.
Yeah.
Those are you can find all music all of there. I'm also on social media. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook occasionally, on TikTok. I'm not doing a lot at the moment, as I say. I've sort of all of that promotion stuff has taken somewhat of a back. Yeah. What do you call that? What's the phrase? Back step back.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think.
But there's a
back seat.
There we go. Back seat. There we go. I'm going to blame that on the baby brain.
I haven't got that excuse, but
no. But you thought of it, so you're fine. I'm all of those places. You can find me. I'm
perfect.
The Mikey Powell on Instagram and TikTok. Mikey Powell on other things.
Awesome.
I don't know if you can hear my cat who's complaining at the door.
No.
Good. That's great. The microphone's doing great work.
The cat obviously is missing you.
Yeah, indeed. He did actually. If you listen really carefully onto my first EP, there is a moment where he gets in. There's this little perfect little meow in a little gap on the title track on Snowballs. So listen to
that's really
Snowballs.
Cool.
You listen carefully. You can hear my cat.
Wow. I did hear that.
You heard that
I
one,
actually did hear that. I'm not sure if it'll come out in the recording, but I did hear that in the background. Very funny.
Nice.
Awesome. So that's all we have time today, friends. Mikey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been an absolute joy.
It's been a joy for me as well. Thank you so much for having me, Joel. Anytime I'll come back.
No,
just say
it's been a pleasure. Well, I do hope Mikey's story has really encouraged you and inspired you to follow your path and shine your light for God as far and as wide as you possibly can. Remember, it was Jesus who said in Matthew 5, nobody hides a light under a bowl. Instead, they put it on the stand and it gives light to the whole room. So for now, it's goodbye from myself and Mikey.
Bye.
God bless you all and see you soon on the next Illuminate podcast. You've been listening to the Illuminate Podcast. If you have a story to share about how you've been learning to shine your light for God, then I'd love to hear from you. Go to joelcause.com/podcast to find out more and get in touch.